Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to look at two coins here. Two coins on Kucoin. I've got in a lot of trouble on the comments for calling them, shit coins basically. So today I'm going to call them the best things in the world, blockchain wise. I mean, you can't get better. Obviously, you could lose 90% in a period of 3 months, like it's done in the past. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but it's worth entertaining the idea that it could. All right. In traditional markets, they call this sort of a move, a 90% drop of that of that description, a widow maker. But I suppose in crypto they call it shitcoins. But for me, I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying let's make some money. All right, let's all make some. I'm on your side, guys. I'm on your side. I'm making videos on it. I'm trading it. I'm heavily involved. Let's make some cash. And let's all be nice to each other. If you want to call it a shitcoin, you can. If you want to get it tattooed on your forehead, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you. All I'm looking to do is make some money. All right. So join me in the TA. Whether you agree with the fact that I'm bullish on it or not, you shouldn't get too upset. Anyway, so this is for all those moon boys out there. Still looking pretty good, I have to say. So we'll start with BEPRO. So we got on BEPRO here, Bitcoin to BEPRO pairing, which is what I think is probably the better way to look at these things right now. While Bitcoin is still within this accumulation range, and this really is literally just hanging on to breaking through, to be honest, breaking through. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but this is the reason we're looking at this now, because this might be the last opportunity, I suppose, for some of these coins to really make their big moves. Because, in my opinion, when Bitcoin breaks out, which it will inevitably do at some point, whether it does it next week or if it's going to do it at some point, then we'll leave these sort of things behind it, even if it's just in the short term. And then we can play it on the rotation period, looking through the Bitcoin dominance chart, and then we can play these coins all over again. But for the moment, it's working out really well. So we saw this big move up, and then we got basically a U-shaped here, which usually, I'd say usually turns into some form of cupping handle. If that's the case, then we are looking to probably fill my first sell order for BEPRO, which is all the way up here. It's 5,280 sats. It's still a way off, to be honest. It's still a way off, but that's still a nice big move, because I got into this basically once we retested this 200 exponential over here. So it's I've doubled already, but I would like to see a little bit more. And this is doubling the amount of Bitcoin. This is how I'm choosing to view using these. I'm trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I can, as fast as I can, with these sort of high risk, high reward altcoins. I'm not going to say, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but altcoins, right? So that's basically what this is used for. So I appreciate that this is likely to outperform Bitcoin in the long run anyway, because that's what these small caps will often do. But I still want to be able to trade, right? So trading is the more appropriate method for me. In of one thing and jump out into the next. And at the moment, taking profit into Bitcoin is my preference. So at the moment, we're surfing the 21 exponential. It seems to be the most appropriate moving average that BEPRO seems to be holding on to at this. So all the others get sort of chewed up, basically. The 21 exponential is the one that has it, and we are very, very steep on this 21 exponential. Now, what I would say is, and it's a bit dodgy of a signal, but it is still a signal all the same. We had a negative and then a positive cross on the Ichimoku cloud. Now, this sort of thing, if this sort of thing would be a very bullish signal, and one that would have a continued move of basically a trend form and continue to go up until we get an exit point, right? So if we take that for what it's worth, we could deem 2 days ago this candle body, when we got that signal, as the entry point, and the exit point would be yet to be offered up to us. So the exit point would be when the Chiku span touches our price action, or we get a negative cross of the blue and the red. That would be our exit point. So at the moment, as far as this indicator is concerned, take it for what it's worth. We had a negative one a day before or 2 days before, and then a positive one. So it's probably not really worth holding on to dear life for. But I mean, it's still nice to see. I mean, it is something. When we have a look over here, we've got the money flow index, we've got the RSI. They're all snaking up quite nicely. We've got a nice crossover here on the daily for BEPRO to BTC on the MACD there, which is good. If we go over to the weekly, let's see how high we are. We're not very high. Everything's looking pretty good. The problem with this chart is obviously it started all the way up here, which is ridiculous, and dumped all the way down. So the chart basically is a fine old mess. So if we look at the way that it's shaping up here, we're at the top of the Bollinger Band for the weekly MACD. sorry, for the weekly Bollinger Band here, the price action, which suggests that yeah, we can push a little higher, but for the moment this run is almost over, I think, on this little portion of the run. It can obviously go higher, but the same thing is going on here with the Bollinger Band on the daily. So ups and downs, but this could be the next phase of bullish move. And so over the coming weeks, provided Bitcoin doesn't go into a massive breakout, this could move all the way up to my first target, which is just above 5,000 sats, right? And that would be great, and that would make sense with the golden cross, the fact we're above all major moving averages, the fact that we're not massively overextended on these other oscillators, especially the money flow index. I like the way it all looks, right? So BEPRO does look to me like it's going to have a sustained move up, but it's going to be extremely volatile, and this is why I suppose it's good for bot traders. You know, stick a grid bot on BEPRO, you should be laughing all the way to the bank, because it will go up and it will go down enormously, just like it has done. So big moves up, big moves down, big moves up, big moves down, up down, up down, up down, and your bots will enjoy that. So long story short, I'm still bullish on BEPRO, and my first sell target is going to be up here, and it will be closed to Bitcoin. Not in full, but this would be my first major sell target of 25% of everything I own of BEPRO will go into Bitcoin. And that's basically taking out my original investment and some profit, which will go into into Bitcoin, and the rest of the BEPRO that's riding is essentially all profit, and then I'll be taking more profit as that goes up, or if it goes up. But if and as it goes up, I'll be taking more. But original investment plus almost double, and we'll be taking out here into Bitcoin. That's the plan for BEPRO. Similar kind of vibe going on here with VRA. VRA, we're going to look at it first of all on the USDT pair, where we're basically at a resistance, more or less. I would say it's the 4 cent resistance. We can see here we've got resistances here: a breakout, a small retest, a breakdown, and a retest. Resistances all the way here before the breakdown, and this is more or less where we've come up to now. So a little bit of a front-running move there. If we look at the money flow index over here is 92, so it does have capacity to go a little higher on the daily before it pulls back, and I would imagine a pullback to be relatively dramatic on this one. We've born this candle has been born outside of the Bollinger Band. It's not normally a thing you want to see. Don't really like seeing those sort of things. Bollinger Bands are like magnets, drawing the price action back in within it, even if it was just to touch the top. So I would expect a pullback to the top of the Bollinger Band at least, but over a little bit more longer period, I would imagine that these moving averages will catch up to it, and that would be the next entry point. And essentially what will happen if this continues to be bullish is that, you know, the 10 exponential is where we've got the best relationship for price action on VRA here. We will find our way towards the resistance, and we should have some kind of reaction as we reach the apex. But for the moment, it's been a fair old run for VRA, and one that I think might be looking to dry up a little bit for just in the very short term. We'll move it over to the Bitcoin pairing. We've got our pitchfork tool in here. For what it's worth, we just managed to break into the inside, I suppose middle bottom inside area of the pitchfork, and if we can remain in here, then it does lend us lend the idea to us that we will continue within that and use this uptrend as resistance, as support, sorry. But it might not happen. You know, we've got to wait for closures, and at the moment we don't really have any closures, and also it is a weekend, and my understanding of what I think is going to happen with Bitcoin is we're going to have a temporary pullback, which might get extended because we're at such a high level and shorts might pile on. However, it is make or break. I don't have a very strong opinion on Bitcoin, but it would make sense for a pullback to happen here, even if it's just a little one. But we could get a larger one too. But again, I'm not married to the idea that that'll happen. Resistances do break, and if this resistance does break, then yeah, we should launch up and above 55,000. That doesn't necessarily mean that these charts here, especially on the Bitcoin pairings, will go up as well. Again, yeah, I favour the idea that if and when Bitcoin breaks out, it will take some sats away from other coins. Now, these ones have been so aggressive so far that it would be kind of rude for people not to think about taking some profits after making some significant gains into Bitcoin. A lot of traders, that's how they trade. Altcoins are just a stepping stone to basically earn more Bitcoin. and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? That is an appropriate way to trade, and you cannot blame people for doing that. Other people like to invest in here, and this is why people get upset, I think, when I use the word shitcoin for these sort of things. That, I mean, I don't know much about the projects and stuff. I trade the charts, and like I say, you know, these charts are very tradable, as you can see already on both of these charts. On my entry points, I'm over 2, I think maybe even 3x up on these things already in a very short space of time. So it's a very tradable chart. Do you know what I mean? But with high risk and high reward things, you do have to be careful. I mean, it's okay to invest in something if you have done your fundamental, evaluation of the project, and you deem it to be more valuable in the future than it is right now. That's fine. That's your deal. But for me, that's not how it works. For me, I'm all about basically using these as stepping stones to earn more Bitcoin. First sell target here is literally right at the very top. I'm more bullish on VRA. I've been more bullish on VRA than BEPRO. However, I do look at them in the same kind of way. They have both done massive big moves up. They both completely collapsed. You know, VRA almost collapsed by 90%. BEPRO collapsed a lot more than that, actually. Let's just admire how bad BEPRO did collapse on its tether pairing, which is what really counts, I suppose, here. Because that's your money, really. That is your money. It did a 95% retracement. So, I mean, for me to back down from people when they have a go at me when I call it a shitcoin, I mean, I just have to remind them that over a 3-month period, 95% retracement. I mean, that you wouldn't expect that from anything really, unless it was an actual bear market. This hasn't really been a bear market. This has been a market crash, or a market dump. It's not even really been a bear market. You know, it's been a 3-month downtrend for Bitcoin and the market as a whole. A lot of money was taken out of the market, but 95% from top to bottom. I mean, there isn't really any argument, really, for somebody who decides to call BEPRO a shitcoin for that. I mean, it's embarrassing. It is really bad. But again, you know, I'm all up for trading these charts. I'm all up for making the money. That's the point of this. And the reason these were brought to my attention was because of these huge moves up and massive moves down. Usually, what I notice with coins like these, shit coins basically, is that volatility repeats. So if we see something like this that has previously done an enormous massive move and then dumps massively again, there will be, and actually, you know, having a YouTube channel actually emphasizes this. There's a lot of people that get, you know, almost obsessed with the chart, not even the chart, just with the coin itself, you know. Usually because they're significantly underwater, right? And they refuse to hear anything negative about it. Even in in my case, where I'm talking about how bullish it is and how high it's likely to go, and how I'm invested in it, I'm trading it, I'm very bullish on it, but I still call it a shitcoin. It upsets people, and it's because probably they have not made any money from it. They're probably underwater from it, and that usually that sort of vibe becomes a self-propelling advertising system for the coin, if that makes sense. That's where communities sometimes are born. They're born in times of hardship, believe it or not. So there'll be a lot of people who are holding this, refusing to sell it until at least they get their money back and then start to make some profit, who are grappling for any kind of good news or bullish indication or anything, and they just can't take the criticism of the fact that it did do a 95% dump in 3 months, and that psychologically often helps the chart because it helps push it along. If you write BEPRO into Twitter or something like that, there'll be loads of people, loads of armchair traders like myself, but by the thousand, all talking bullish about BEPRO, calling for it to go to $1, all this kind of madness, right? Which is impossible to say if it's going to go to $1 or not. You've got to take things level by level. But usually what I'm saying is that the volatility of a chart like this, and the community that are, like I say, some are underwater, a lot of them probably are. I mean, when something like this dumps 95%, I imagine a lot of people are underwater, obviously, and then it becomes like a snowball effect, you know. The name comes out there, it's all over social media, and then people buy into it, and especially now, it seems to be working just as I expected. Previous volatility ends up repeating itself. Whether it comes back up to these previous peaks or it gets sold off, you know, around these candles is a different story altogether. I always prefer candle bodies to wicks, especially with something that looks like this. And someone said on my Telegram or my YouTube that, you know, Matic was a shitcoin, and it was. We used to trade Matic on this channel all the time. In fact, it was the foundation of this channel, at least for a year. We were trading it all over the place because coins like that are great to trade, you know what I mean? But they have to be looked at with extreme scrutiny because you do not want to get caught in the wrong way. Now, obviously, if you bought Matic and you were happy just to buy it and then go to sleep, you know, put yourself in hibernation for 2 or 3 years, then you'd wake up all very happy about it. But in amongst all of that, you would have had your money tied up in Matic, and you couldn't trade it in any other asset, and it would have been a frustrating and pretty depressing ride for those sort of investors. But for people like me that like to trade these big moves, you get into this, you get out at a big move, you go into the next thing that you've planned, into the next big move, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And if you want to come back to BEPRO, you can do, but make sure that it's a safe place to get in, because again, you know, you could lose, like some people have done here, 95%. So again, I'm not slagging it off. I'm actually all for it. I'm very much a bull on BEPRO and on VRA. But the reason that I think people are getting so confused about what it is that I'm saying is that I look at everything through the lens of risk management all the time, right? There's no point in even trading unless you've got risk management. And when you're looking at something like this, there is clearly risk there, so you need to manage that risk. Even though I'm bullish in the short term, I'm looking to scalp some of these profits. For VRA quite soon, and BEPRO not too far away, I would expect. You know, I'm not a moon boy. I'm not going to call for it to become $1 because I can't. There's no way to prove or to make out that it's going to go to $1, but there is a way there to say that, okay, the trend is reversing, the trend is looking good. Let's take some profit. Let's make some money, take some profit out of this one. Let's double or maybe even triple or quadruple the amount of Bitcoin that I owned by using these. So, you know, starting off with 1 Bitcoin, you know, what's wrong with turning 1 Bitcoin into 4 Bitcoin, you know, in what, a couple of months? There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that is where I'm coming from. I'm a trader, not so much an investor. There are certain things that I invest in, but I am a trader first and foremost. And this is how I trade, right? I double, triple, quadruple, or whatever it is my money based upon entry points and exit points. And don't try and get in at the very bottom. I don't try and get out at the very top. I take nice portions of the price action in between and surf the volatility. Do you mean? And that is it. Anyway, long story short, I'm bullish on both of these. My targets, first of all, will be based around candle bodies rather than all-time highs, unless we're talking about VRA, where I am actually looking for a new all-time high on the on Satoshi pairings. And then once that gets broken, obviously we could talk about blue sky breakout. VRA, in my opinion, is way more bullish than the others. If we look at the daily chart here on the Bitcoin pairing, the death cross more or less didn't happen. So you could argue that this is basically just one giant dip, which is now being bought up aggressively. But the main fear for me is that if and when Bitcoin breaks out, it will bring these charts down by default. I don't think these will trend as aggressively with Bitcoin. I think when Bitcoin starts to move, people should really think about taking money out of this and putting it into Bitcoin, at least in the short term, and then maybe back into these sort of things when Bitcoin dominance hits a certain resistance level. Anyway, if you watch my channel, you've heard it all before, especially if you're a member of the Patreon. I'll be doing a live stream tonight for Patreon members. I normally do them on Saturday nights. I just couldn't because I've got family down at the moment. But I'll be doing it tonight. It might be a shorter one than normal, but yeah, I'll be doing it tonight. But you've all heard it before about playing the rotation, using altcoins to maximize on Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin to go back into altcoins, and so on and so on and so on, and just basically making the most of the market as it rotates. You know, the market caps rotate, and that's basically what's going on here. The first step up appears to be most aggressively with some of these small cap altcoins, and then I think it'll all pour back into Bitcoin, and then back into these guys again, and so on and so on and so on. That is how I trade. That is a trader's perspective, not an investor's perspective. I appreciate that, but as a trader, I did not and would not get myself into a position where I lose 95% of whatever trade I'm in. It just would never happen. But what I would do is make the most of something that has broken down that far once an uptrend has begun, and that's what's happened here, and that's why I'm entered these trades, and that's why I'm talking about them on YouTube. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. A bit of a rant, but that'll do, and I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.